right, for this topic on how to start a business in Singapore, all that you need to know. We have two amazing speakers with us from Osome as well as our very exciting partner, Aspire. So with us today, we have Saravanan from Osome, and we have Yen, Head of Startup Experience from Aspire. Right, so just a quick introduction to the speakers that we have today. For Yen, excuse me, yeah, he's the Head of Startup Experience in Aspire. So he has 10 years of experience in business development, sales and market expansion in Southeast Asia. So before joining Aspire, he expanded the footprint of an insurance company in Southeast Asia and set up office in Thailand and Indo. So definitely Yen has great experience in setting up businesses in the financial area. So if you have any questions regarding this, please feel free to put it in the chat. And from Osome, we have Saran, who is a business administrative graduate and more than 7 years of client-facing roles in banks and other sectors. So being in this role, Saran has great experience in helping many companies and many entrepreneurs start their business in Singapore. So any key information that you require or any specific questions that relates to the nature of your business, Saran is the man to ask, all right? So we have already compiled quite a number of questions when you registered with us. We've compiled that, and we will be answering those questions at the end of this session. But if you find that you have more questions or if we did answer any questions, please feel free to just put your questions into the questions tab, and we will try to answer them during this webinar. If not, at the end of this webinar, an email will be sent to you as well. And any questions that you have that's targeted towards Aspire or targeted towards Osome, you can just feel free to drop us an email as well, and we will be more than happy to answer these questions. All right. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let's get right into the webinar. So for our first up, our speaker, I present to you Saran. Saran, the stage is yours, man.
Thank you, Daryl. Hi, guys. Hope you guys are doing very well today. So again, on behalf of Osome, would like to also thank you guys for actually attending today. So today, this webinar is actually a very excited thing for me. I'm actually presenting how you can able to change your life in terms of in your business and everything. Before I proceed, let me just share my screen. So just give me a minute. Okay, so let me just go through on it. Okay, so Incorporation in Singapore. So as you know that there are many entrepreneurs actually venturing out to open up their company in Singapore. So we in Osome, we are actually guiding them on what are the key benefits that you can able to get in Incorporation in Singapore, and also how the step-by-step process will be. So just to introduce myself again, my name will be Saravanan, but you can call me Saran for short. I'm a sales development specialist, which I will be actually in taking care of new incorporation for clients who are actually planning to open up their company in Singapore. So basically that is my email address. So if you have any questions or any queries regarding about your incorporation, you can actually always drop me an email. So we are actually, just to give you a glimpse overview about Osome. So we are a 24/7 online corporate service provider that offers you support in company formation, corporate secretary, accounting, tax, immigration, and also payroll services. Not only in Singapore, we also provide these services based on incorporation in Hong Kong and also in UK. So why Singapore? So many of you guys would have this question in your mind, why I need to open up a company in Singapore. So basically, Singapore is actually the most competitive economy country in the world currently. So they have been constantly on the top list of doing business. So you can always, you can always do your own research on seeing that there are a lot of clients with different company background. They are actually planning to open up here. So in Singapore, you can also get a lot of grants for new SME companies, which is one of the grants will be a Start Digital grant and also for PSG grant as well. And also the best part is you'll be able to enjoy a very interesting tax exemption for new startup and also in industry specific tax incentive, which is I will actually touch base with you guys later on in the next slides. So Singapore tax system. So just to give you a just to explain a little bit more about it. So in Singapore, right, we have a fixed corporate tax rate of 17%. All right. So in this, there are a lot of tax exemptions that client can benefit from doing the corporate tax, which is one of them are actually startup tax exemptions, partial tax exemption, and also corporate income tax rebates. So apart from corporate tax, we also have personal tax rate, which is from 0 to progressing 22%. And also we have 0% capital gain tax and also 0% tax on dividends. So corporate tax exemptions. So this is will be beneficial for all the new SMEs, whereby let's say if you are incorporated in Singapore, right, and also your tax, you'll be considered as a tax resident. And let's say you have a shareholder that less than 20 shareholders in the company, so you can able to get these tax exemptions. One of it is actually the startup tax exemption, whereby the first 100,000 revenue, the chargeable income, you will be getting exemption up to 75%. And also the next 100,000 will be the tax exempted for 50%, which is 50% of the tax will be exempted. And also for partial tax exemption, this the first 10,000 will be 75%, and also the next 190,000 will be 50%. So moving to Singapore as a foreigner, there are actually two ways that you can actually migrate to Singapore to run your business. First one is actually with employment pass. So this is actually an employment pass that you can able to work and stay in Singapore under the company. So for this employment pass, there are certain criteria that you need to achieve, which is the first one is actually you will need to have at least 6,000 Singapore dollar as a salary, or higher salary will be preferable. So in annual income, you need to show at least 70K as the annual income that you can able to generate for this employment pass. And also you need to have a higher education, and also at least 50,000 have to be deposited in your corporate bank account if you're applying for an employment pass on your own company. So let's say for this timeline for this employment pass to be approved, right? Usually if it's invited by a company, let's say a company is actually applying for your employment pass, you will take 1 to 3 months. Let's say if you're actually registering a business on yourself, which is you're opening up on your own company and applying a pass from there, it will take about 3 to 6 months. So we also have another pass, which is Entre Pass. For this is actually targeted for entrepreneurs who will be generating their own funding. So I will not touch base, just to go through a little bit about it. So who can able to apply for the Entre Pass, right? It's actually for those entrepreneurs who have got funding from a government recognized institution or business network, or let's say they hold an intellectual property or a research collaboration with a research institute in Singapore, and also for new investors if they have investment track records. And then types of business entities. So type of business entities that you can able to incorporate in Singapore is actually, we have 5, which is the first one is a sole proprietor. The second one is a partnership, limited, the third one is a limited partnership, fourth one, limited liability partnership, and also the last one, private limited company. So I'll be focusing more on the sole proprietor and also the private limited company, whereby this holds more benefits compared to the rest. I'll explain why as well. So for the sole proprietors, right? So basically it's all about you. So it's just, you will have the full control of the business. It's easy to set up. The profit is all yours. There are very least compliance requirements. And also it's easy to terminate, let's say if you are planning to end the business at some point of time. What are the consequences? There's no separate legal entity. So basically you will not get any tax incentive or benefits, and also there will be no government grants will be given to you. And also this will be under your personal tax, which is at 0 to 22% progressing, which is a higher tax rate. So second one will be partnership or limited partnership. So what are the benefits is actually also same, lesser compliance regulations, easy to set up and also manage, and also a cheaper way to actually set up this business. So the consequences is actually tax based on the partner's individual tax rate, and also the partners are considered as a single legal entity. So personally, you'll be liable for the actions of your partners. So let's say if you're actually opening up a partnership, both of you guys actually share the same liabilities, and also requires a high degree of trust, basically. So the next will be actually limited liability partnership. So it's actually equal rights liability partnership, whereby the benefit for it is actually to set up this limited liability partnership is easier compared to the compared to the previous one. So also same, there are no much compliance requirement, and the registration cost is actually lower than the partnership. So the share allotment and also the AGM is not mandatory in this limited liability partnership. What are the consequences? Actually, let's say if you are planning to transfer your ownership, it'll be slightly complicated, and also there will be no tax exemption, and also you will be prone to management disputes, and also lesser financial resources if you're actually planning to venture out your business. So to talk about private limited, so this is actually the most common and one of the most recommended setup that we will always reach out to clients in Osome. Why? It's actually the benefit is actually the company can last forever, so you don't need to do a renewal base or anything. The expansion of the business will be much more easier if you have a private limited company. The corporate tax rate will be lower, which is at fixed 17%. You'll be entitled for tax exemption for the first 3 years. And also there will be government grants available, which is, as I mentioned to you, one of the grants is actually the Start Digital grant and also the PSG grant as well. So, and also in a private limited company, your funds are safe and protected. So what are the consequences? If you can see, among all the options, private limited has a very few consequences, which is one of it is actually the cost of starting up is actually higher compared to the others. And also more compliance regulations will be needed in terms of the private limited. So how to incorporate? So we in Osome, we will always guide our clients step by step in terms of how to do a proper compliant incorporation for a private limited company. So I'm just going to go through a little bit about the steps for you as well. So to set up a private limited company in Singapore, the first step that we will always do is actually to check the availability of the proposed company name in ACRA's website or the Singapore Incorporation, Singapore government's website, to check whether the name is available to register the company under your name. And also, once let's say it's available, we will proceed to actually appoint a registered filing agent, which is in this will be Osome. And also, we will be providing you the required information and also the documents for you to sign and also to fill up, provide us regarding about the companies as well. So once you have signed all the necessary pre-incorporation documents, we will hand it over to the relevant team to actually proceed with the incorporation, and finally the company can be incorporated. So the whole process, we will be able to do it within a day's time based on your speed, on how fast we can able to process the information and also the documents. So when setting up a company, you will need to take note of a few steps. First of all, company names. Really, you should actually try to avoid words like banks, insurance, education, finance, as these names will actually might be able to potentially referred by the authorities, and the incorporation process might get even further. And also business details and also the SSIC code. We will also always need to have a brief description on what are you planning to do, and the corresponding business activities code as well to match the business descriptions. And also you will need to have a local address, which is must be an address in Singapore and not a PO box. Let's say if a client doesn't have a local address, in Osome, we always provide a registered office address service as well. So, and another important thing that you need to know is actually in the company, you must have at least one local director who should be a Singaporean or a PR. You cannot be a director if you are holding an employment pass from another company. So which means only Singaporeans, PR, and also employment pass that been assigned to that specific company that we are going to incorporate. So apart from that, you cannot able to You cannot able to hold directorship if you're actually holding an employment pass from another company. So in this case, right, if you don't have a local director who can able to represent you, we will always provide you a nominee director service in Osome who can actually represent your company in across outside. And also, you will need to have a company secretary details. So, which means by law, you will need to actually appoint a corporate secretary within the 6 months after the incorporation. So, once, let's say if you are incorporating this month, right, within the next 6 months, you need to find someone to actually step in as the company secretary for you, and we need to update in Accra as well. And also the share structure. So minimum, you need to have a payout capital of $1 to begin with. It can be up to 1,000. So usually when we inform clients about the share structure, you can actually choose the number of shares as much as you want, but the minimum payout capital have to be $1 that you will need to plan to actually set during the incorporation. So what other things that you'll need to know apart from this is actually the basic compliance requirements. So to maintain your business, you'll need to hold an annual general meeting once in every year. So this is actually a meeting to update all the shareholders on the current financial situation. And this is where you'll be presenting your financial statements and also the resolution on other matters. And also filing for annual returns. So these are the documents that indicates your company's financial health and status. And this need to be filed only after the shareholders sign the resolution approving the financial statements. So annual returns should be always be launched within 7 months after the financial year end. And filing of ECI or estimated chargeable income. So this is actually to be filed within 3 months after the financial year end, so that IRS will know that will know your tax base and will be able to calculate your tax. You are exempted if you are exempted if the estimated chargeable income is null or the annual revenue does not exceed 5 million. Income tax returns, calculation of actual tax to be paid. So this is actually will be filed whereby all the company will have the same deadline, which is we'll need to file this on the December 15th every year. So just to give you an example of compliance, let's say if your financial year end is on 31st of December, so you will need to file your ECI or the estimated chargeable income not later than 3 months from the financial year, which is on 31st of March, you will need to actually file your estimated chargeable income. And then you'll need to held the annual general meeting not later than the 6 months from financial year end. So technically, you will need to have your first annual general meeting before 30th of June. And then the filing of the annual return should not be later than 7 months, which is you'll need to file it before 31st of July. And last, for the filing of the income tax return should be by 30th of November or 15th of December if done electronically. So the last deadline is actually you need to file it before 15th of December. So audit exemption. So this your company will be actually exempted from audit if it's a private company in the financial if it's a private company in the financial year in question. So what are the criteria actually to be exempted from audit is actually your total annual revenue, it should be less than 10 million, or your total asset is less than 10 million, or the total number of employees is less than 50. So why Osome? So basically Osome is a one-stop solution whereby we help you to eliminate all your paperwork. So basically we will actually take over your burden of your back end filing, because first thing, you have convenience at your fingertips, which means you don't need to print out documents, you don't need to actually go chase invoice and everything. Everything will be done through e-signing through our PandaDoc system. It's always reliable, whereby we provide a reliable service to ensure that you are covered even during the festive season. So basically, you can actually just go during the festive season, you can just go relax, just focus on having spending time with your family, while we will help you to keep your company on compliance. And also we move based on your speed. So you don't need to actually wait for your corporate secretary or your accountant. Basically, we have done our fastest incorporation within 38 minutes. That's our record. And we will always try to maintain our service qualities to be on peak. And also our price and the cost of our services, right, is actually the best prices in the market. It's a competitive price, but we don't have any hidden costs. Everything will be mentioned to you upfront, and we really value the transparency that we always deliver to the clients. And this Osome is actually a one-stop service provider in your doorstep. So basically, we have a full suite of services. Incorporation, we provide you support in corporate secretary, accounting, and tax, which is includes with bookkeeping and also preparing your financial statements. Plus, we also help you to do other services, for example, like GST filing and also payroll services as well. And what I mean by convenience at your fingertips is actually, like I mentioned to you, you don't need to print out any documents to sign. Even the resolution or the constitution will be sent out to you to do an e-signing through the online document signer, which is our PandaDoc. And also, we will always give you the best, fastest response, whereby our 85% of the response are made within 15 minutes. So, as I mentioned to you, that our fastest incorporation was actually within 38 minutes for busy founders and also business owners. So these are the thing that I mentioned to you about the pricing as well. So in terms of service that I mentioned to you, just give me a minute. Okay, so just to go through again, apart from the services that we provide, which is the incorporation, corporate secretary, accounting, tax, and also the payroll, we also provide support in immigration, which is we help you to apply for the employment pass or dependent pass. And also we have a very strong partners for our bank account opening and also for e-commerce settings as well. So we have Aspire, which is we can able to do a same day bank account opening, and also OCBC, which is also we can do a same day local bank account opening. So we also have partners in Shopline and also WeWork, and also we have many more partners. So what are the costs to actually incorporate a company? So this, let's say if you are a local Singaporean or a PR, so these are the package that actually you can able to choose. So it's a very affordable prices with discounts. So first of all, let's say if you're looking for only incorporation, the price is actually 350, which is we will covering the $315 government fee and also the filing with ACRA and also the company constitution. So same goes for Kickstarter, which comes with incorporation and also corporate secretary. And also Rocketeer is actually incorporation together with the accounting and tax and also corporate secretary. So this accounting and tax able to cover you for revenue up to 60K in the first financial year. So let's say if you're actually planning to incorporation through this webinar, right, you can just quote this promo code, which is SG webinar, whereby you can get an additional 16% discount on your first invoice. And for foreigners, there are actually two options. Let's say if you're planning to move to Singapore to run the business, or you're planning to actually run the business remotely. Let's say if you're looking to remotely run the business, you can just take our Bonanza package, which is it will be included with the corporate secretary, the incorporation, together with the nominee director service, and also the registered office address. So the bank account opening will be actually free with this package. We will help you to send in the request to our local bank, which is OCBC or Aspire, to help you to open up a bank account. And let's say if you're actually planning to move into Singapore, you can go with this package, whereby it comes with incorporation, company secretary, nominee director service, registered office address, and also employment pass application. So it will be one-stop solution for you if you're actually planning to work and stay in Singapore. And same, if you use this promo code, which is SG webinar, you will get an additional 16% discount on your first invoice. So if you guys want to actually find out more on what are the other services that we provide and how that you can how we can able to help you to start your business, you can always scan this QR code, submit your details, and within one day, our consultants will actually reach out to you, and we can able to kickstart your business from right there. So thanks for your time. So please ask me many questions. I know you guys might have a lot of questions in your mind. Do not worry, I will answer them. So I'll just leave it to Daryl from here.
Thank you. Thanks, Saran. Thanks for the insightful webinar and presentation. That's really great. Again, if you guys have any questions, please feel free to put it in the questions chat, and we are more than happy to answer any questions. Or actually, Saran is more than happy to answer any questions that we have for you. Right. So next up, ladies and gentlemen, proud to invite up on stage, this virtual stage, Yen from Aspire, who will be sharing with you a little bit more about opening up a business account as well as some financial tools to help you with your business. So ladies and gentlemen, I present to you, Yen.
Thanks a lot, Adam. Really appreciate. Can you guys see my screen?
Yep, we see your screen.
Cool. All right. So thanks a lot, Saran. So Saran helped us today to understand how we actually incorporate a company in Singapore. So that's the first step. And I think we're going to discuss about the second step, which is how the heck am I going to open a business account, right? Having a company is great, but I want to open a company, get paid, right? So this is really what we're going to discuss today. My name is Jan. I'm working from Aspire. So we are what we call an all-in-one financial operating software platform. Basically, we provide financial services, and on top of that, we provide very specific services for CFO accounting teams, such as invoice software, expense management solutions, and spend management, right? So we are a startup, we are Sequoia backed. We've raised about $200 million up to today, and we're helping startups in Singapore and outside of Singapore to incorporate and open an account within Singapore. So today we're mainly going to discuss about three topics, right? The first one is how am I actually going to open a business account in Singapore? What are the type of questions that I should ask myself? The second part is mostly going to be a small comparison between the traditional players, which means the banks, versus the fintech players, because it's not always very clear for most of the people. And the third one will be just briefly to discuss about, at least from our end and from my end, what does actually look like the future of business finance? How do we see it happening, right? So how the heck am I going to open a business account in Singapore? What are the type of questions that I need to ask myself? So usually there's 4 steps that you need to take. The first one is really ask the questions to yourself and to your partner. What are my business needs? Why do I need a business account? Why am I going to do with that business account? Once you answer this question, you will easily understand that, okay, now I know what I want. What does the financial players in front of me actually have to offer to me? How much do they charge me? What are the different services behind the traditional services, like getting paid, receiving payments, that they can offer to me? Can they actually help me with a loan? Can they actually help me to better manage my own finances? Can they actually help me out with cross-border payments and to just better manage my finance overall? Do I have a dedicated account manager? All those type of questions are very important that you ask yourself before you actually open an account, because we're going to discuss more later on that sometimes opening an account can be quite challenging. So when you open an account, there's basically like 4 parts. The first one is the account, right? So I have an account, I need to be able to hold my money, right? The second point is, okay, I have an account, I can hold money, but I need to get paid and pay people, right? So those are really the two and third different segments. And the third one is, what can that account do for me in terms of payroll, accounting, loans? So those are really the basic information that you should actually ask and make sure that your business partner can actually support you. In terms of documents to open an account, there is different way of seeing it. The first one being from, I would say, the traditional banks. They will ask most of the time to have all those documents in paper, so physical documents that will need to be signed and most of them certified. And we'll see later on that the fintech players are actually taking a different approach where everything is digital, a little bit smoother, right? But in summary, those 6 points are the main documents that you will need to open a business account. Most of the time they will ask additional documents, but this is really the core of the 6 documents that will be asked. And now, okay, we discussed about, okay, I want to open an account, but where should I open an account, right? If I'm in Singapore, it's all right, because I can visit the bank, I can just walk into a branch. I'm not saying it's going to be easy, but at least it's easier. If I'm not in Singapore and I want to open an account in Singapore today, when it's starting to become very troublesome. Main reason is that most of the traditional banks were not prepared for the pandemic. Most of those guys, usually they will ask you to visit a branch, to be physically present in Singapore to open an account. And this is why as well those fintech players became so popular within this pandemic, because they made it digital. They made it very easy in a sense to open an account, right? So today I'm quite often talking to startups that have raised crazy amounts in Europe, in Indonesia, or in the region. They would like to open a company in Singapore, a holding company in Singapore. They will go to a traditional player and it will take them sometimes up to 10 months. I've seen up to 10 months to open a business account. In the comparison, they will go to a fintech player and a fintech player will be able to open them an account within 1 or 2 days. How did they do that? We're going to discuss it a little bit later on, but basically mostly through API integration. So for example, with Aspire, when you open an account, you can simply link your corporate path and we're just going to pull out all the information from there. Right? The corporate path, for the one that are not very aware, is kind of your company passport, right? So all the information are there. It's from the government, so it's secured, it's traceable, and we just basically pull out all the information from there. So there's no need to make those documents certified once again. So that's really the main difference between the traditional and the fintech players. Traditional, it's a little bit still like very paper driven, and the fintech is 100% digital experience. I can open the account from anywhere, just using my mobile or my phone. So the next question is, okay, in terms of fees, right? I mean, what does it mean? I'm often getting lost. There's so many fees, so many hidden fees. So this is definitely something that you should be aware of, right? Usually how banks are making money is 2 to 3-fold. The first one is on the fees that they're charging you on a weekly or monthly basis, right? It's a small fee, but they just want to make sure that your account is actually stable, that you still have a minimum balance on the account, and that this account is not dormant, right? There's activity on the account. From a banking perspective, there's nothing worse than just having an account with no transaction. The second way how banks make money is through the FX. FX, when you actually make an international transfer, or FX as well when you're paying on cards, right? The third one is on cards. Every time you spend on cards, there's either a cut from the merchant or they make money on the FX fee. And most of the banks actually make money on the fourth one, is actually on lending, right? They lend money to other businesses. So all those fees are very important for you to be aware of. It's very important that you actually compare those fees and that you ask always, what are the FX fees? Because this is really where traditional players are really making the most of the margin on, right? So the type of question that you should ask, what are the fees? What are the hidden fees? What's the FX fees? How much are you going to charge me on a monthly basis? Is there any hidden fees that I'm not aware of? And once you know that, okay, then you can really do a quick comparison between, all right, I've got traditional banks in front of me. I have fintechs in front of me. What should I do? What do I want to do? Prefer to go with a traditional player? I'm happy to go with a fintech player? This is a personal choice, but important to get an idea of what are the choices available to you. Now, from our perspective, there's a huge gap in the market between what people want and what's available in the market yet. And that's why we actually built Aspire. On the current market, everything is paper driven. Most of the time, there's an offline process. So you need to visit the branch, sometimes several times to actually open an account. There's a lot of hidden fees. You never know what you're paying for. they got charged, but it's not really mentioned. It's mentioned maybe, but in a 150 pages contract, so not very clear, not very transparent. There's a long wait. You make a transfer, you don't know where your money is. You have to wait until you get someone on the phone, and there's no customer support or little customer support. And I think that's why as well, fintech has become so popular, especially over the last 2-3 years, is because people had to become even more digital. People understand that now what they want is actually a mobile-driven solution, something that is cheaper and faster, with a great customer experience, but most importantly, transparency. People want to understand what they're paying for and why they're paying. So paying a fee in an FX transaction, so when you send money, for example, to SGD to USD, it's fine. But I think people want to understand how much they're paying and why. And as long as you're transparent, I think now customers are really willing to pay those fees. Right? So from our end, what are really the frustration from the business owners? There's fourfold. I'll say the first one is that it takes a really long time to open an account. I mean, 15 to 20 days is if you're in Singapore, right? There's a lot of hidden fees. There's a long way to get the support. And most of the time, for SMEs, it's very hard for them to get access to working capital. And in this case, you have those what we call sometimes neobank, all-in-one platform, so those fintech players. And what those guys change is that they make the experience seamless, much easier than the traditional players. So to open an account, it doesn't take 15 to 20 days, or if you're not in Singapore, 3 months, 6 months, it will take you about 5 to 10 minutes. You can do it from your phone, everything is digital, and it's much easier. So the entire KYC process, so know your customer. So basically when we ask about yourself, proof of identity and everything, can be done using your mobile. The second point, and I think this is probably the most important point, is those hidden fees and charges. A lot of customers coming our way are coming because they're just being frustrated. Not only because the solutions are not agile anymore, but really because of all those hidden fees and charge. Customers today want to know what they're paying for. We're living in a world where you have the internet, everything can be easily accessed online, so people want to get transparency on what they're paying, how they're paying, and actually those charges before they actually make the payments, right? If you learn it afterwards, I mean, it's not going to help the cause, right? People really want to understand, if I send X today, how much is my client going to receive? The third one is really in terms of the long waits, especially during the pandemic. I think a lot of customers have been very annoyed in a sense by the lack of support they obtain from the traditional players. And this is one of the reasons why those sort of fintech players really gain a lot of market shares, is because it's a 100% mobile experience. You get customer experience 24/7, and you get most of the time a dedicated account manager, no matter the size of your business. So for a lot of SMEs and a lot of digital businesses in the region, it totally makes sense, and they're actually choosing more and more fintech players. Last but not least, and I think this is very valuable for all the companies that are Singaporean based, right, and that actually have a strong activity in Singapore, is the lack of access to working capital. Today, if I want to have a small credit line to finance my business, I want to do inventory financing, I want to have a little bit more cash to do my invoice financing because my suppliers stories are paying me after 60 days and 90 days. How do I do? How can actually my banking partner support me, right? And I think this is very important. It's a question that you should ask yourself, especially if you're a Singaporean-based startup or company, because this is probably the key, right? One day or another, I'm going to need to have extra source of capital. Who can help me out, right? Fintech players usually can help you with that very rapidly. You get an answer usually within 24 to 48 hours. So now we get an understanding between, okay, how do I do to open an account? What are the different choices in the market? Traditional players, fintech players. Now, I just wanted to share maybe one slide about, from our perspective, how will actually the future of financial operating system, or how the future of finance or banking in general, look like, right? From our perspective, you have twofold. The first one is all the traditional services that you can get from a traditional player. So I get an account, I want to have a card, and I want to make transfer. But most importantly now, what we realize is that more and more companies actually would like to have one platform where they can manage the entire finances, which means that I want to have my accounts to be integrated with the accounting software because I don't want to actually do the Swift. I want to have a seamless experience. So every time I make a transaction, this should be recorded directly in my accounting software. Great. I want to have the ability to manage my entire spends using one platform, which means ability, for example, to create 10 different cards, 15 debit cards or credit cards, allocate a very specific budget to a very specific person so that person can manage their own spend. I don't want to do it myself. I don't want to spend hours at the end of the month. I just want to give one card, one budget per employee, and at the end of the month, I have access to all the spends on the company. Same in terms of budgeting. I want to be able to give budgets to different people within my team, either for a certain period of time, a quarter, biannually or annually, and those people will need to manage the entire spend. But all this should be done using one platform. Why? Because the main important topic or the most valuable topic for a CFO or for finance team is reconciliation. How am I going to make my life easier? How am I going to make the life of my team easier and ensure that they're not spending hours and hours just copying and paste financial information. So this is the vision of Aspire, where we actually see ourselves moving forward and how we're going to help startups and other businesses. When we say startups, it's not only startups that are funded by companies, it's all the digital businesses, all the business owners that want to launch their own company. So really the idea is to create a product that is very easy, fast, and that will help you to grow along the way. I think that's pretty much it for my side. I hope it was very insightful for you and that I explained you a little bit the difference as well about traditional players and fintech players, as well as what are the typical information that you should ask yourself before you open an account. And I'm happy to take any question that you may have.
Awesome. Thanks, Yen. Thanks so much for the presentation. I'm sure that was really, really helpful. I think the difference between the traditional banks and the fintech companies, I think that is a key information that a lot of people, a lot of potential business owners, entrepreneurs would love to know. So thank you so much for sharing that, Yen. We are now entering the Q&A session. I see that we have quite a number of questions, so we will attempt to answer them one by one. For Sarah and Yen, if any of the questions you feel like you want to answer, just feel free to just jump in, right? We start for the first question that I see from Marco. The first invoice, can it be paid by a company, or like if they come with Osome, can it be paid by a company which is the same owner but in a different country?
I think I'll take this one.
Yeah.
Yes, you can pay it via company with the same owner. So just once you make the payment, you just need to provide us the transfer or the transaction receipt so that we can able to retrieve the payment. So the invoice doesn't need to be paid by the person. It can be paid by someone else as well.
Okay, thanks, Aaron. And Yen, I think this next question will be for you. How does the banking setup process work without us, as the company or the owner, being in SG, being in Singapore yet? So this question is from Christine. Maybe you want to take this, Yen?
Correct, yeah. So with the fintech players, you actually don't need to be physically present in Singapore, right? The entire process is completely online. And during the application process, what we're going to ask you is basically to link that corporate pass, which is let's say your passport of your company, right, to your accounts. And we're just going to pull out all the information from the government website. And this is how we KYC you. All the documents moving forward, you can send them by email. You can even add them directly in your onboarding process using your app. So you can open an account wherever you are in the world. So if you're in Africa, you're in North America, it will take you about 10 minutes to open the account, 5 to 10 minutes. And to complete the KYC process is about, depending on how fast you can provide the documents, between 1 to 5 working days. So it's relatively seamless.
Thanks, Ian. Hope that answers the question, Christine. Next question is from Elvis. Can a home address be used as an office address when incorporating a private limited company? Saran, you want to answer this?
Yeah, can. Yes, you can use a home address to be your company address. But just to let you know, right, when you actually put in your home address, when you use your personal address, right, do take note that your address will be available publicly and accessible to all the advertising or sales companies. So you will actually potentially receive a lot of sales or marketing mails to your home address.
Right. Thanks, Aaron. I think next one is for you as well. Does it make sense to set up a business at the start of Jan 2022 rather than December 2021 because of the additional administrative things like the AGMs and the filings, etc.?
You can always set up this the business from any point of time. So usually we will encourage the client to have a 12 months financial year, the full financial year. The first thing is actually for you to actually enjoy the full 12-month tax exemption. So it does not matter when you actually put in the annual financial year end. As long for the first 3 years you have maintained 12 months, then it will be easy for you to actually apply for the tax exemption.
Okay, thanks. I think, sorry, next one is for you as well, from Diego. I'm not sure if you answered this. If not, we can always leave our email here. He says, I've opened my business in Singapore and I've deposited 50K as a paid-up capital, went through hiring process with MOM, and still the EP application got rejected. So are there any other options available besides EntrePass in this case?
There's no other options as of now. Let's say if you actually are planning to work in this company, either you go for an employment pass or an EntrePass, or you can also try for the F pass, which is another set of work pass. But usually, let's say if you are put in deposit 50K as a pay up capital and went through the whole process and still got rejected, maybe you can just give yourself a 6 months cooling period, and then you can try again. Probably this time with Osome, we can able to probably advise you what went wrong in the first time, so that we can maybe rectify it and try to apply again.
Okay, thanks, Aaron. Next question, I think this will be for Yen. How will Aspire work with my accounting software?
Okay, so we have different integration with different accounting softwares, right? So one of them, probably the most popular one in Singapore, being Xero. There's another one called QuickBooks, and you can just directly integrate it using a few clicks. So within a few clicks, you can sync your Aspire account to your Xero account, and every hour, every transaction that you've done through your account will directly be seen on your Xero account.
Thanks. The next one's for you as well. How is it possible that traditional banks open bank account in a few months and even more, but Aspire can open in less than a week? So how does that work?
Okay, I think it's a very good question and very legit questions, right? For me, it's in terms of processes. What are the processes from traditional banks? What are the layers of approval? Today, from a traditional bank, until the pandemic, it was nearly impossible to open an account without traveling to Singapore. This was a requirement, right? It's not a requirement from the legal AMS in Singapore. AMS is the regulator in Singapore. It was a requirement from the traditional banks, okay? So the way we assess it is when you actually create an account, right, you will need to have a company before. When you create your company with Osome or with anyone else, you will already share a lot of information to those guys, right? All this information will be used to incorporate your company. When you incorporate your company, your government website will register all those companies on a website called ACRA, right? Basically your company identity. All the information that are there are legit, have been checked, and have been approved by the government of Singapore. And you open an account with us, we just basically pull out all the information from that website. So you're gonna win a lot of time. We don't need to have any of those documents certified because, I mean, they have been approved by the authorities of Singapore already. And the other document that will be required are basically only like standard document in a sense that can be sent by email. So this is the way how we do it. For traditional banks, typically the way they do it, and I mean, I'm not working for a traditional bank, so I don't want to say anything, but usually from what I understand, they will ask you to pass between 2 or 3 different interviews, so like webcams, where they're going to ask you questions with different people. You're going to have to explain them how your business works, and so on and so on and so on. The problem comes from the fact that there's so many different layers of approval that it will take months. And those banks are not very digitalized yet. I think it will come, don't get me wrong, but they're not there yet. So the process takes months and months and months. I hope I answered your question, Sultan, because I think it was a good and legit question.
Thanks for the clarification, Yen. I think that is a very interesting very interesting question, and thanks for answering that so well. Next question from Jatin. I think this, Saran, you can take this. Hi, I'm based out of India. I want to set up a company in Singapore solely for investment purposes. Is it possible to do that? If so, how much time does it take? And what is the requisite things that we need to do? What's the cost for incorporation and the annual maintenance charges?
Okay, so for this, it will be considered as a holding company, which is the timeline and also the cost of incorporation will be quite similar to how we do a private limited company. So it's just a different type of private limited company, but the setup will be same as a normal PTE Ltd company. So for the cost wise, it will be same as a normal incorporation. For the second annual renewal charges, it will depend on the growth of the company, because we were actually based on the client's revenue and also what is the requirement from their side. Then only we can able to quote you the renewal fees.
Okay, thanks, Saran. Okay, next question also from Marco as well. Is just a fintech bank enough to comply with all the necessary rules? Yen?
Can you say again the question?
Is a fintech bank just a fintech bank enough to comply with all the necessary rules?
Yeah, so the way it works, right, you have to be compliant with the same rule as the traditional players, okay? The way fintech works, right, fintechs, I mean, we're not a bank. Aspire is not a bank, right? So for example, all the funds that you have with us are always secured on a DBS account. So when you open an Aspire account, you technically open a virtual DBS account, okay? So every fund that will be held on your account will be held on a DBS account. So on your bank statement, it will say Aspire, but it will also mention DBS, right? Now in the KYC process, we actually KYC you on behalf of DBS, okay? So I hope I answered your question. Basically, you have to comply with the same rule. It's exactly the same regulations, right? But we just don't have the same licenses because we use the bank licenses to hold the funds. The main difference is that, for example, we cannot give you we cannot lend your funds. So the funds that you have with us, we have no right to touch them. So we cannot say, oh, for example, Adam has an account with us. He has $1,000. I'm going to give like 500 to Saran. Not possible from our end. We are not allowed to touch the funds of our customer.
Thanks, Yen. The next question, is Aspire the same as Wise?
I wouldn't say it's the same because Wise is, Wise is a UK business, right? Wise is mostly a remittance company. So Wise is a company that helps you to send money from A to B. That's pretty much what they do. And Wise is primarily looking at the retail market, right? While Aspire, we only do corporate markets. So you cannot open an account with us as an individual. And having an account is only one of the services that we want to do, right? What we really aim to become is that all-in-one financial platform where as a CFO, as a business owner, you can manage 90 or 95% of your business needs using one platform for the ease of reconciliation and automate as much as possible.
Thanks, Yen. And I hope that answers your question. By Yen, it's similar sounding names. All right. Next, from Marco as well. We're planning to set up in Singapore with the same owners as we currently have in Vietnam. And the second step, we have the Singapore entity to buy out the owners in Vietnam to own the Vietnam entity. So what type of company license would you recommend for that? Saran, can you answer that?
Yeah. Okay. So in this case, right? So you are planning to actually set up a Singapore entity just to buy the shares of the Vietnam or to own the Vietnam entity. So in this sense, you will no need to have a company license. The company licenses will be required if you actually run a business or a transaction from the same types of business descriptions. So in this sense, you're just forming a holding company just to hold the shares from the Vietnam entity. So if this kind of structure, you will no need to apply for a company license.
Great. Marco, hope that answers your question. No more questions in the chat, but actually we do have some very interesting questions that you guys have posted when registering, so thought we could answer a few of those. I'm also aware of the time, so we'll just go through them as quick as possible. Okay, first up, is there a startup community in Singapore for entrepreneurs and business owners? Yen, do you want to answer that question?
Yeah, I can take it. Yeah. I think it always depends what we call startup, right? There's two types of startup. The one that are funded by the startup ecosystem, so the VCs, venture capital firm, angels, the accelerators, and so on. And now there are the self-funded startup, right? But overall, there's a huge community of startups in Singapore. Singapore wants to be seen as the Silicon Valley of Southeast Asia and even Asia as a whole. So the government has made lots of efforts to attract the best talent and the best startups actually in Singapore. So the ease of getting your account set up, the ease of incorporating company in Singapore helps most of the founders that want to create a business to actually move to Singapore. The community is huge. We have lots of groups, of startups group, of fintech groups, of startup events that are all the time organized in Singapore. So if in terms of community, the community is just huge, to answer your question.
Great. Thanks, Yen. Okay, this is the next question, and look at the time, this will be the last question. But I see this question quite a bit. So regarding CPF, so the question goes, which business entities need to pay CPF? Sarah, maybe you want to answer this?
Yeah. Okay. So for CPF, all types of business entity will be actually liable for CPF. So who will be actually liable for paying CPF, right? So if you appoint any Singaporean or a Singapore permanent resident to work in the company, then the Singaporean will have to actually pay CPF on it. So for individual, you'll be a progressive 20%, and a company also need to pay a part of CPF, which is 17%, based on the salary of the CPF.
Okay. Thanks, Sarah. Okay, in view of time, we will have to end here. Okay, but I see some questions asking whether this webinar is recorded. The answer is yes, this webinar is recorded, and the link to view the on-demand recording will be sent to you immediately after this webinar, right? So if, again, you have more questions to ask, I mean, Marco, I see you asking a lot of questions. That's great, right? If you have more questions to ask, at the end of this webinar, the email that we sent together with the link for the recording, that's also inclusive of the promo code and also inclusive of the emails of representatives from both Osome as well as Aspire, in case you need to have any further clarifications to help you to kickstart your business. All right, the last minute, just allow me some time to just do a very quick advertisement and a promotion. All right, so Aspire has this very new exciting product called the e-commerce card. So for all those of you who are looking to start an e-commerce business in Singapore, this e-com card will be a perfect complement to your business. So what this card does is the moment you use this card to make payment to any of Aspire's partners, yes, in this case, like Aspire's partners, approved list of vendors. Yeah, there's a word, approved list of vendors. You get a chance to win. No, you immediately earn $100 cash back immediately to the card, right? And this is on a monthly basis, and this promotion lasts all the way to 31st of December, right? So Osome also is one of their approved vendors. So if you apply to Aspire to get an e-com card and you choose to purchase Osome's e-commerce accounting package, where it is a special package for e-commerce accounting, right? With that, you get to earn an immediate $100 cashback to that card. And if you use that card to purchase services or products from any other e-commerce vendors that is approved by Aspire. It can be like Shopline, NinjaVan, Lazada, Shopee, etc. Yeah, if it reaches $1,000 in that month spent, you earn a $100 cashback per vendor spend, up to $500. So terms and conditions, if you need to learn more, feel free to just email the email that will be sent to you at the end of this webinar, and that agent from Aspire will be able to give you so much more details, right? So with that, ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of the webinar. Yes, the slides will be included to you guys as well. If not, please feel free to just email us and just chase us for the slides, all right, if we forget to send it to you. So that, ladies and gentlemen, is 5:01. I'm so sorry I've extended 1 minute, but thank you so much for joining us for this webinar, and we hope to see you again for the next one.